We are live at the Audible Angle with a new episode. I'm trying to improve my audio by shouting into my microphone. Hopefully that works. Doing a lot of tests on the audio lately. Gave up on trying to look good on camera about 20 years ago. Urbs, we're hustling now. We're into 9 hours of recording and production time in one day. Let's jump right into it. Paint a picture for me. Where are you at? Packers, Bears. You at home in the recliner? Where are you watching it?
I'm watching the game over at Deb's. I'm in a recliner. I assume the position. That's a Sunday kind of an 8-hour session that always happens. Going over to Deb's. It started when Gav was a young man. Now he's not. He doesn't get to join us. Just joins us virtually. But Deb is usually spending a lot of time upstairs and away. But she does come once the Packer game comes on. She hunkers down for a good 3.5-hour session, and it's downstairs with the cats. Just kind of enjoy herself. Maybe do snacks. I think this week we had sausage and cheese, some crackers. So it's kind of a nice little setup down there. Pretty cozy, if you will. But it's a nice setup. Bathroom is about 6 steps away from the recliner, which is also key. Refrigerator is another 12 steps, and up the steps 6, and then another 12 from there. So nice little setup. How about yourself?
Well, I was coming off the golf course. Forgot to mention in our budget meeting, I did get a round of golf in on the Audible Angle dime while I was down in Florida as well. Quick recap on that is started off real strong with the par on the par 5. And the rest was some good and some bad. A lot of spraying the drive. Ended up searching for food with Jar, good friend of the program, Jar, trying to get his mom on the program as a listener and viewer. She was a big Jim Goes Personal fan, which I do need to get back to that as well, but I'm not sure if she's converted over yet. Maybe put something in the comments, Mary, if you're watching or listening. We ended up at a Buffalo Wild Wings, so I was near the Disney properties, and so I was in football overload for the early games. TVs everywhere, watching the Dolphins look dominant, and a lot of football action. Ended up back in the hotel room, getting close to the Packers kickoff, and let's say I was overcome. Well, I mean, I wanted to, and I knew I had my bases covered. I headed back out to the parks to meet up with the fam. So I was watching with the Thank You Dr. Dre Beats earbuds in, and watching on the phone on the bus ride over there. Got to sit around, wait for the family meetup, watching the game on the phone. Torrential rain, so I'm inside a poncho with it up over my head and my phone inside the poncho. Watch part of the game like that. And then for a good portion, like the traveling portion, I had my phone locked into my fingers like this and my hat hanging over to keep the phone dry, poncho over my body, and walked around Disney like this. So I don't think I missed a play. And then, of course, as always, I rewatched the game. So I was thrilled, and had a couple beers during golf and at Buffalo Wild Wings. So I was a little enthusiastic, and I was walking around. This is Epcot that day. And not the first time I was there on this trip, but wasn't the last time either. And I was walking around doing the audible, like Watson's first touchdown, like just whoop, giving it some big pumps. I don't care what the people down at Disney think of me. I mean, they're riding around on scooters and looking like bigger morons than me. So I'm walking around randomly yelling, looking down my own shirt. So they probably just thought I liked what I saw. It was a unique experience, and the Packers did me a solid and made it a unique and great experience.
You know what I call that? I mean, I call that no other fan base is going to give dedication like that. I just don't see it. I don't see that I don't see it from anybody in the North. I maybe we see that from a Patriots fan nowadays. Back in the dynasty years, but you just don't see that from outside. I mean, you just that kind of dedication and ingenuity with the hat thing that you showed. I mean, you painted me a picture of dedication. That's what I saw there, and I believe there you are. There it is. Wow. Uh, nice stuff. Good stuff. Let's get to the game. What did you think? I'll kind of tee up here. Tale of two halves. Is that correct? I mean, it truly was a tale of two halves. We just ended our half not as bad as what they ended their half with.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. I mean, the Bears had the one long running drive that was particularly disheartening to watch and really started to cause some concern. I wouldn't say it was total half dominance by the Bears in the second half. It solidified some confidence that I had in the Packers, albeit at times shaky offense. I think you'd be hard pressed, except the Philadelphia game, and to be honest, my play-to-play, drive-to-drive memory of the Philadelphia game is obscured a little bit by the fact I was at the game, and that's, regardless of whatever state of mind you're in, it's just different. You don't see the replays, you're running to the bathroom and all that stuff. You don't have actually, it's a sad thing to say, but watching the game, NFL on TV is such a wonderful way to watch the NFL that in the stadium, yes, it's awesome, but man, you don't have the same view of every single play. In any case, the point I'm trying to get to is throughout the entire year, with the possible exception of the Philadelphia game, because I don't remember exactly what happened, whenever we've needed a drive, including against Cleveland and including Dallas, Jordan Love and the offense has answered. And that's the story of the second half for me. Bears got close, Packers answered, Bears got closer, and they answered. And then, boy, we're hanging on by a thread defensively in the second half. But it was, to me, I started to have that feeling when game was close that I had confidence built up during the season that the Packers would answer. And the fact, of course, that it was a touchdown was pretty significant to push it back to 28-21. The Bears are, in the text chains and stuff like that, some people go back to the Bears still suck chant, and there's some Bears fans in that text chain. And I replied with, basically the chant should now be, the Bears are fairly good. The Bears are fairly good. That's how I feel. And by fairly, I mean they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk. I think you hit a good point. We've got to talk. I'm going to go away from the game right now, and I do have comments on the game. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Bears fan, right? And it gets. I'm gonna use the term maddening because it continues year in and year out, right? Like at the beginning of the season, all the Bears fans were saying that this is the team that we're gonna win the Super Bowl. It's our next Super Bowl. 5 games in, they're like, we're fucking terrible. Like, I don't know what we're doing. Then they right the ship through week week 12. They're in first place by a half game. And they're going to be like, you don't have a chance. We're sweeping you. We're beating you at Lambeau, and we're going to beat you at Soldier Field. We are the best team. We are the number 1 team in the NFC because we're winning the Super Bowl. End the game. And again, all I hear, and this is, I mean, I guess maybe they're a strong fan base, if you will. But now after the game, I'm like, good game, to be honest. Good game, but we were the better side, right? We finished the game. We started strong, maybe had some blips in that second half. They ran the ball. I would put that more on the Bears than anybody else. But then the Bear fan comes back at us and says this, we're going to kill you. at Soldier Field. We're going to kill you. It's not going to be close. 49-3, I've heard. 49-3 at Soldier Field. I want to ask Pat. I want to ask Bear fan. Did you watch the game? At what point in the first half do you believe you would have scored 49 points against us at any time in the calendar 2025 year? It's not happening. There wasn't like now kudos to the offensive guru mind of your head coach. He did get smart and he said, I'm going to roll Mr. Williams. 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 But remember, he's only as good as what he is, and he's not able to make every pass yet. So, Bears fan, let's calm down. I believe it will be another close game at Soldier Field. But Bear fan, please be realistic. Packer fans are quietly, they're like what the Republican Party was 5 years ago, the silent majority, right? The Packer fan has confidence, but we're a little bit quiet. You push us, we're going to get boisterous. Yeah, we might get overserved at every game and most tailgates and most times post-game. And a lot of times we're drunk on the next Sunday too, but it is what it is, man. At least we understand what we are, and our expectations are a little higher than what you are. But boy, Bears fan, we need to calm her down.
Well, and just to clarify for the listeners, of which there are many, I think they're possibly getting outpaced by the viewers at this point. I'll check the numbers, but don't forget to subscribe and do all that stuff. Comment at will, especially Bears fan. But just to clarify, you're also talking about real human individuals that you communicate with face to face. This isn't like, oh, you just look for the craziest guy on the internet. These are actual human beings.
No, these are coworkers. These are some of my sales staff. I mean, these are our colleagues I have with a very prominent manufacturer in the communication device arena. These guys are. I'm gonna say it. I'm going to say it. I think Bears fan, you are officially delusional. Are you a better team than you were last year, the year before, the last 10 years? You absolutely are. Absolutely. I will tell you that was a good football game to watch as a neutral fan. There were fans from Tampa Bay. There were fans from the Rams watching that game, and they're like, you know what? That's a good game. That was a good game to watch. That was fun. That was entertaining. That's a good game. Eagles fans were watching it. They played later. They're watching that game, but let's stop being delusional. Right? They are what they are, and it's still an incomplete team, to be honest. And do I think that the quarterback has skill? Yeah, I think more with his legs than with his hand, with his arm. I think and we have to get to a point, Jim. Please tell me, am I the only one that sees a bloody hold on Micah Parsons every single snap? I mean, there is one that went right past the guy in the white hat. And I mean, he's got him in a chokehold. And the question to me, Matt LaFleur and we agree on one thing. I don't know what a hold is anymore. That is the one thing that we will agree on, and I will agree. And you've got to tell me, talk me off the ledge here, fella. But there's got to be that. Am I seeing holds, or what am I missing?
I believe that there's a high probability in this roundabout connection here, but this comes from a direct quote from the Lions coaching staff. I don't believe it was Dan Campbell last year, but it was someone either on the staff or it was definitely on the staff. I just don't know if it was the coordinator or position coach. The Detroit Lions defensive backs, handsy, grabby, talking about Tyrion Arnold and Rackestraw. Everybody's injured there now, so it's technically not the current defensive backs because they're all injured. But they pass interfere, grab and hold all the time, and the coach literally said we're challenging the refs to call it every play, and until they do, that's what we do. We push the edge of the envelope, and I think against Micah Parsons, and I don't know why. I'd have to watch every pass rushing snap across the NFL to give a totally unbiased answer. But I wouldn't be shocked, either, probably not publicly, and it would be after a team played, if they just say, hold his ass. Until we get 3 holding penalties, if he's getting around you, just grab his ass and challenge the ref to call it. And because Micah is such a lot of his game, he's not limited to just being a speed rusher. But so much of it is speed. I mean, it's actually because he's so good that he doesn't have to just rely on speed. He cuts it back in. He's doing little things to help teammates, like the Ngabari sack was basically Parsons rushing, pushing a blocker out of the way, and Ngabari was the beneficiary of that. But he could probably draw a holding penalty on 50% of the plays if we're just, trying to be somewhat reasonable. It's probably 50% of his actual straight up pass rushing plays and run game. I'm sure he gets held there too. And it's just they're challenging the ref to call it every play, and they'll say we'll take 2 of them if they're going to start lighting up our offensive tackle every play. Then we'll adjust if we need to, but don't get the quarterback killed and see if they call it, and they're not. So opposing offensive lineman coaches are loving it because that's part of their game plan is just hold his ass. And yes, he's getting held to what's becoming an alarming, because coaches almost never say much. I don't think they're very well trained at not saying much to the refs or about the refs. And for Matt LaFleur, even as somewhat vague or he for him to say that is pretty serious. But yeah, the one was such an obvious chokehold, and when you see the replay too, the ref is between the camera and where the hold is happening, and it's like it's a direct line of sight. So you just wonder, what does it have to be? And I think additionally, part of the problem with the NFL is and maybe some of this is their training too, how they're told to call it. They do wait to see what happens. So if he's getting held and Williams is scrambling around and he chucks it out of bounds, they don't bother throwing the flag. More alarming for me is what's the deal with 2 plays? Well, I'll address Bears fans too. And I got to take this off. I'm just overheating today, boys. The Bears came back. They kept it close. And in addition to, there could have been, and let's face it, holding calls, I don't know what the actual percentages are. They kill drives. So let's just say 2 holding calls on Parsons. Those are drive killers. The Bears had the benefit of, calling it loose on holding this week. They had the benefit of 2 calls where the ball does not, on any replay that we see as fans, and presumably we see them all, the ball never touches the ground. On Evan Williams' interception, they call it incomplete. I think they ended up on. They originally called it a fumble recovered by the Bears, which makes absolutely no sense. How that's imaginary completely. And then they called it incomplete on a ball that never. Not only could you not see it visually, what you could see was his hand under the point of the ball. And then he rolls out of there and his hand is on the point of the ball. So you can easily infer, you could have inferred that the ball didn't touch the ground based on that. You can't infer that there's no visual evidence it touched the ground. And then on the Ferguson catch, that's razor thin. And I would categorize that as, and because I watched it again today, there's like one frame where maybe the tip of the ball touches the ground. So then you get into, did he have possession before that and all that shit? But to have that be a definitive overturn of a catch, those are huge plays in the Bears' favor, and they got those. They got no holding calls.
What about
And they
the
lost.
don't forget, please add in the personal foul, the
Oh yes.
obvious chokehold, the WWE move that was overlooked, and then Nixon, who I to this point I did not see where Nixon would have thrown, like even grabbed him face. I don't think he grabbed face mask or anything, and he gets flagged for the personal foul after he's the one that got literally full chokehold like that. There was a referee in the screenshot. He saw it. It's in the still shot. He's right there. So we're overlooking. And I get it, folks. I get the comments. Bring them on. That you only catch the second offender. But let's be honest. The second offender never did anything. And if he did, you got the wrong number.
Well, and let's just also bring up the fact that allegedly we have geniuses in New York secretly reviewing all plays and call it down. And because they can't create a penalty after the fact, but there's a flag on the play. Hey, boys, I missed a chokehold, offsetting. Just do offsetting. Okay, whatever. Offsetting, it's stupid. That still is advantageous for the Bears because they get to replay the down. So you're not even really screwing them. You're still giving them a free play if you go offsetting. Now, if it was a dead ball after the play, I don't know if the down counts. Say whatever you want. Offsetting would still help the Bears. It just won't fucking totally smokescreen. So what's the point of having New York review stuff and having them have the ability to review personal fouls anyway? I do believe they have that ability.
Yes,
fact check me. Yeah,
They do.
They do. So what's the point of having them if they're not gonna? I mean, it wasn't like mysterious or in a pile. It was out in the open. It was on several angles. It was a chokehold, LaFleur. I believe LaFleur was shouting, punched him in the throat. Maybe maybe you don't call them a punch, but a stiff grab to the throat is probably worse than a punch. Because in the NFL, you're just punching other guys' helmets. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, and that's just a dumb. Those three plays that you speak of, one of those three goes the Green Bay way, and it's a different game in the first half, man. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the three, and I'm using three as I'm looping every hold into that, right? Like then there's four. Like if one of the four, and maybe we call one hold in a situation where, but don't get me wrong, man. The Bears made plays. That throw that Williams made on the run with when Nixon should have just knocked the ball down and not try to intercept it when he was laying on his side, like those kind of plays, like that's a good play. Like, and in the second half, they probably. I think they played the Bears. I think the Bears played too cute in the first half, and they went away from what worked the week before, which was inside the tackle running, which is our weakness. I mean, come on. We know that in that 75 play drive that they had in the second half, it was cold enough you could see the breath, and there was breath coming out way too fast for a human being on those linemen. And I don't know, can you tell me in that situation why the Packers aren't subbing their interior linemen? Is it because they can't get on and off the field fast enough and we're just going to give up a big play because we're going to have too many men on the field or something? Or talk to me why they don't change the guys.
Yeah, without being too specific on individual plays, generally if the offense doesn't sub, then you're flirting with disaster if you try to sub, especially defensive tackles, because you're right, you get caught with 12 men on the field, or heaven forbid 10 or 9, especially if they're defensive tackles. So if they're keeping the same personnel, that kind of puts you in a vice. And then the other part is, we really, with Devontae Wyatt getting hurt, I think we were a little limited on personnel. Now you have guys. Obviously, you have bodies you can rotate in, but they didn't play Stackhouse at all. They played the new guy they signed, and I forgot his last name right now. But I don't think Nazir Stackhouse had any snaps, and I think part of that was they just didn't. As far as a game plan, they went with a more seasoned vet that they could play in more different situations than they could in Stackhouse. So they didn't really have him game planned up into what they're trying to do. So I would guess the main thing was the substitution pattern of the Bears is what restricted the Packers' ability to sub. And then a little bit of a limitation on personnel and, what versatility they have, because there was a lot of, the Bears, even on that drive, they're still down. We might have been still protecting, and the Packers kind of do this a little bit of the bend that don't break. They might have just decided, again, personnel wise, by not rotating in Stackhouse, because he's just doesn't get a lot of pass rush. Like, we don't want to put in our lowest line of defensive tackles, which would be less pass rush. We want to at least keep them. We'd rather have them take advantage of us on the run than be able to pass it down the field, because we're at that point we're still protecting the lead. And frankly, the Bears, in addition to getting too cute at different parts, maybe they didn't get cute enough on their that long running drive. I mean, it was, and even their last drive, it was very much like they were draining the clock. And you see a lot of teams do that out of fear of the other team then getting the ball. But I just think any time you're down, especially if you're down 7, which the Bears were on
Try to
their
get
last
another
drive.
possession, right? Try to get another possession.
Yeah, try to, and their drive before that too. Like, they should have some hustle. There's a lot of times with the Packers that I have the same frustration when it's clear that they want to have the last possession. Like, I understand that, but man, there's times when I think teams overplay that angle a little bit too much, and I think the Bears probably regret being down to 27 seconds on their 4th and 1, thinking, boy, I think they were down to, I think they still had 2 timeouts left, but if they would have used a timeout somewhere else in there and had a minute 30 or a minute 20, and then, if they got that first down, if they're like, hey, Caleb, no matter what, get the first down, which we did a good job of taking that away. They would have ended up in a bit of a time crunch. It would have been down to, okay, we can go over the middle one more time and take a timeout, or run and take a timeout. But then we're really, then they're at 16 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. If that was the Packers and this was reversed today, I would be screaming about game management. I would be screaming that Matt LaFleur failed again on game management. But I guess this time worked out to our benefit. And here's the deal. We still have to clean some things up on the defensive side. I know Halfley's getting a ton of positive press, which is pissing me off for 2 reasons. Number one, let's not lose a good defensive coordinator. How come every other team keeps their defensive coordinators except for the Green Bay Packers? Like, why does every Green Bay Packer defensive coordinator get a fucking head coaching job, but the guy at the fucking goddamn Patriots stays there forever? Anyway,
well, they get fired or get a head coaching job.
Yeah, and there's great. So that's both negatives for the Packers. But the other thing that we have to clean up some of the stuff, the dumb stuff that happens. We obviously knew, and I know Williams admitted publicly that he made a mistake there, which he was one of the 4 guys that was going at Williams. Obviously, that's a mistake. Thank God Nixon surprised me and used his brain, because I think he brain fries more than he doesn't. But that was a good, we had plenty of guys at least, and you know what? The other guy that didn't come out, one of those linebackers that should have dropped on the mid-range wide receiver who was also running wide open, but Caleb isn't good enough to see him, because all he has to do is lob it to him and he walks into the end zone, and he's late on the other one. But Nixon made a great play there. But we don't have to have 4 guys in any situation. There should not be 4 guys at once running towards the ball, especially when there's 27 seconds left and it's 4th and 1. You don't do that. I don't, 2's plenty, leave 2 back. You don't want to give the touchdown. If he gets a first down, fair enough. Live to fight another day, but we don't need to send all 4. Anyway, that's what we have to clean up, I think.
Yeah, that was treacherous. And that's good. Um, I know Nixon talked about it too, and it's kind of like he just saw him and whatever. But I think part of that is they did a similar thing against Philadelphia, and frankly they didn't do that exact play that last play looked exactly like the Philadelphia play, but you have to and for the most part, hey, we won. A big part of their scheme is hiding and washing out tight ends that then come wide open. Like they're good at scheming those plays up. Um, so you got to button that up a little bit, and Evan Williams is a good player, so it's not a huge long term worry that is he's always going to be a guy that makes the wrong decision. Not worried about that, but if the Bears one of their main offensive weapons is running a tight end out into the pattern late, and that's why they're coming open because the guy's not really in the route, and then he kind of sneaks out the backside. They had some success with that with Loveland as well. Like Loveland's touchdown, he's walking around wide open. Or did he score? I can't remember if he. Yeah, I think he scored one. Yeah.
He scored. He scored that wide open one at the end zone.
Yeah.
The little pop pass.
I
I
can't
think
remember.
that we've got some. Go ahead. I think we do have some problems though that have to be cleaned up on that defensive line. We know the issues. Hopefully, those two free agents that we picked up are going to be the answer there, or at least some rotation that can be the answer. But we have to stop teams from running inside the tackles. Obviously, I don't know why the Bears' game plan was that they were going to run outside and have success, because that's like in the meat of our strength on defense, with our to not only to our safeties but also our linebackers and our defensive ends. Like they all are fast as shit. Why would you play to our strength in that sense? They're a little undersized, to be honest, outside of Hopper, and I love that dude. Hey, let's shout out to Hopper. Do you see how many plays that guy makes on special teams? And then when he gets one play on defense, he does well. I mean, the guy's a fucking ginormous man, and he's got pace because he gets down there and makes every goddamn special teams tackle too.
And Aaron Mosby, number 53, as well on special teams, who is on the roster as a defensive end. He flies around on special teams for a big man, too. Where are you at on Christian Watson these days?
Ooh, I know that the residing sentiment is that the Green Bay Packers do not have a wide receiver one. Christian Watson is our wide receiver one. No question. He is our wide receiver one, which is great because here's the other thing. I think that Jalen Reed makes Christian Watson that much better. And the dude will catch it in tight windows too. The guy has got pace. He's willing to go across the middle. He's willing to make the tough catch, and he's shown that he can. And then Jaden Reed was solid as Sears in quarter one, and then we decided to forget about him in the half. And again, for the ninth, if we've played 14 games on the season, guess how many games we forgot about our number one draft pick? 14. That's an exact number. Out of 14 games, we have forgotten about our number one draft pick at wide receiver, the last since Javon Walker, on 14 consecutive weeks, period. Throw him the ball.
I mean, I think the golden thing, I do think that was injury related, that he's been very limited. But at this point, I think, and part of that is probably just quarterback development, where at least, Watson went down last year. He's had his injury things. I think Love has grown comfortable enough with Watson, and maybe that'll develop with Reed. It's been there at times. It hasn't always been there, where they're going to get more balls, more typical stuff that you do see a number one receiver get, where, like I've talked about it with Jamar Chase and other guys, I'm not comparing Watson to them yet, but he's going to throw them the ball maybe when they're not the most open player on the field. He's gonna lock in on them a little more, and I'm fine with that decision. Watson has gotten he's gotten very reliable with the hands too. A very inauspicious start. His first game against the Vikings with the wide open touchdown drop, but he actually catches the ball differently now. He's much more handsy. Get the arms extended, and I'm really starting to trust him. Not starting to. I have for a while. I've kind of been a Watson guy.
Is he your QB1? Is he your wide receiver one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how does the hierarchy go? Like, is it Watson, then Dobbs, and then Reed, and then Golden? Is that the four? Is that our four wide receivers?
Well, and Wicks.
Where does even Wicks sit?
I think the reality is Watson for actual design plays and clutch plays. I get clutch though. When I say clutch, I start thinking about Dobbs a little bit more, but I think it's Watson, Reed, Dobbs, probably Wicks, then Golden. But the last 4 or 5 weeks, 5 weeks ago, I wouldn't have said that about Golden because he wasn't targeted much, but he did make some big plays at times on some third down catches. So they trust him, and he's got good hands. It'll be great to see if he gets back to full health. I think he only played like less than 10 snaps, and Wicks was active and played like 4 snaps or something. So he wasn't able.
In there so much? Why is Bo Melton playing so much?
I think it's health and deception. I think Wicks and Golden, they did use Golden on some end rounds and stuff like that. I know Reed is back, so Melton won't see as much as those, but the last couple weeks, Melton has gotten end around. So I think part of that is health, and frankly, and I've said this about Savion Williams at different times where I've been with Packer fans, they're like, why are they fucking giving him what are they scheming shit up for him for on jet sweeps and stuff? And I've always kind of been like, I'd rather see him battling through a running play than Jaden Reed or Golden.
Because
they're
he's
smaller,
big, right? Because it's size.
Up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So use it that way.
How much of a concern is our running back to you? Like, did Jacobs concern you, or is Emmanuel Wilson good enough? And with our healthy third string now, he's off the IR. We don't really know how much he's worth because we haven't seen him in a regular season game yet. Maybe this week is when we see them with some of the injury concerns that is coming out at least out of Green Bay today, that Jacobs is most likely going to play, but he doesn't know. He's got to take care of himself and those kinds of things. Like, so maybe we see more Wilson, or what do you, is that a concerning factor? Or are we just a throw first team? That's how we're successful. Is Musgrave got to be part of that? There's 2 questions there. Are you concerned about our running back situation, and what's your take on our tight end situation? Have we kind of got through the Kraft hangover? Are we good there?
I would say I'm not worried about Jacobs. I'm not sure he's going to play this week. I think he'll want to play. I think if he does play, we'll see most likely more Emmanuel Wilson. It would be interesting if we get to see a little, if they find a way, and roster size and special teams is such a big part of roster selection. If we see Marshawn Lloyd active, I think he'll see the ball. I think they'll make it very purposeful in getting him carries. If they can have them all active with Brooks, I think Brooks has to be active, and I think Wilson has to be active. Obviously, if Jacobs were inactive, then that makes it easier for Lloyd. But if they just want to further reduce the load on Jacobs while he's working through this knee, then maybe we see Lloyd active. The thing I'll say about Wilson, I don't feel that worried with Wilson in there, but there is a distinct difference between, obviously, just the caliber of player, but how they run. Jacobs, usually not to his detriment, because he's been a great back for the Packers. He is patient that to the point where it borders on concern some plays. Like he's kind of hopping around, picking his way through the hole. There's definitely holes, and when Wilson is in the game, he definitely hits the hole harder at times because he's not
100%.
going to make two or three cuts. He's making one and going. And sometimes, just as a you like that as a change of pace back. You like that if a linebacker's being half blocked by a lineman, Wilson will just run into both of them. That's kind of how it was against the Vikings. He just kind of rammed into both of them, and then they all just kind of fell forward an additional 3 yards. We'll take some of that. And I think definitely in a situation where Jacobs is inactive, it would be Lloyd, who he's faster, and I believe, haven't seen much of him, I think he'd be a little bit more like
Shifty.
Jacobs.
Yeah.
A little
Shift.
shiftier. A little,
Yeah.
little shiftier and picking holes. Hopefully not to his detriment. He just hasn't played much, but man, it'd be nice to see them work him in for 4 or 5 snaps against the Denver Broncos, which we need to transition into here. I'll start with you. Any thoughts on the Broncos? I mean, we've documented. By the way, speaking of documentation, if we could go back, I know my math on the total wins was wrong. I did say 3-0 for this stretch. So
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Nice work. Hey, kudos to you. I mean, producer Bob's over there giving you the thumbs up. See him? Look over to your right there. See producer Bob? Hey, all right. He's got you. He's got you.
no, another win for
We
Audible
remember.
Angle, of which are many. And if we rewind the tape equally as far, I have been saying Denver is kind of fake news, and as always, we'll find out on Sunday. But I am not completely convinced on them yet. 33 points in the fourth quarter against the Giants, last second field goal on the Chiefs. They're a little, dare I say, reminiscent of the Bears.
Yeah.
Not
I would
saying
go ahead.
I was going to say not saying either is a bad team or not good. It's just slightly by possibly 2 games or so inflated record. Is all I'm saying. They're 10 and
Yeah.
2, but they're kind of 8 and 4.
Yeah, I agree. They could be 8-4, and they're not leading their division at 8-4, right? So I mean, and they're not the one of the top seeds in the AFC either, right? But I I think what I see from the Broncos is a really consistent defense. And everybody likes to, because of their ranking, everybody likes to say they're the best defense in the league. I think they're a consistent defense, which equals a good defense in the NFL. Like they're consistently strong, right? But they're not flashy. They're not they're just consistent, right? So that's a mild amount of concern, but and the reason it's mild is because I think the Green Bay Packers offense, when it's in rhythm, is elite. And it's proven that. Now, where I am not concerned, so I'm going to lean into your side. Like if I'm looking at a split screen here, if I can lean in over to your side a little bit, if I could, like just kind of lean in, I would tell you that what doesn't concern me is their offense. Their offense is suspect, and that starts with their quarterback, starts with their offensive line, starts with their running backs. I mean, R.J. Harvey, okay, all right. I mean, he's Emmanuel Wilson. That's what he is, So I'm not overly worried about them outscoring us. But on the flip side, we have to score against their defense, and their defense is consistent. I think our defense will feed on their offense. I think we can see a six sack game. So I'm not overly concerned to go into Mile High, other than the fact that we're going to Mile High. I purposely call it Mile High because that's where it is. I'm sure that's not the name of it anymore. But when you go to Denver and play, it's a concern, right? But it's probably going to be warmer in Denver than it would be in Green Bay, because it's going to be in Green Bay. I believe it's going to be like -6 with wind chills -35 on Sunday. So it's going to be
I heard
warmer
60.
what's that, -60?
No, 60 in Denver.
60
plus
degrees. Yeah,
60.
it's great. Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's going to be nicer than in Green Bay. So good thing we're playing them there. I'm not overly worried about it. I'm not concerned. I don't know the line right now as it stands on Thursday. I saw early signals that it was 1.5 by the Broncos, and I think it jumped to maybe 2.5 for the Broncos, which tells you that there's just too much money on the Packers. But maybe I'm not concerned, Dilly. I'd like to throw it back into your court and say, what are your thoughts? I mean, does the offense concern you from the Broncos side? I mean, I think it's, again, another game, which is a great position for the Green Bay Packers to be in. It's more about what the Packers do and less about what the other team does. Go ahead.
I agree with that. Current line is Packers minus 2.5. I'd sum up the Broncos offense as, somewhat erratic and inconsistent. They do have some big play chops. They get a variety, and this, dips into fantasy football a little bit. They just have, random receiver guys, not necessarily always Cortland Sutton, who it should go to if I'm starting them in fantasy. They'll get big plays. They can move the ball in chunks. I do think our defense should be able to handle that, and I do think that, as opposed to Caleb Williams, who I forgot to mention, I've always been optimistic on his ability. I do think he's going to end up being a pretty good quarterback. But Bo Nix, he runs around a lot too, but he's not he's not as slippery. He's not as elusive as Caleb, or probably he's not as fast. So I think he'll get wrapped up. I do think he'll get sacked a lot. So I have a little bit of worry. The thing about it is that plays into our defensive strength. We haven't given up a lot of big plays, not a lot of chunk plays. So they're going into our strength with their somewhat inconsistent, erratic strength. On defense, Denver defense, Packers offense, I think the key to the game, or one of the key things, and this goes from what I heard on the radio this week so far and other broadcasts, I believe the Broncos play the most man coverage out of any team in the NFL. And Jordan Love is statistically the best quarterback in the NFL versus man coverage. They have a very fearsome pass rush, and obviously Patrick Surtain, one of the best corners in the league. So I think a key will be Love when they weren't even necessarily all misses. Some were even completions. He does bypass shorter open routes at times. And I think, especially, this is a little redundant and obvious, but I think early in the game, he's got to take all that. He's got to take all the short routes as soon as they're open, and I think we'll move the ball, and I think we're good in the red zone. I think we'll score enough points, and I think our defense is good enough to stop any wild, crazy comeback that Denver has shown the ability to pull off this year. So I have a pretty, I'm worried about him because on the flip side, another scenario that could happen if the pass rush, Denver's pass rush is a little too much, or Love isn't totally dialed in on taking the first opening he can, there is a potential that it looks like one of those games where all of a sudden you start questioning the offense. Like, how are we fucking punt? Why is it everything 3rd and 7? And there's potential for that, but I think we have remedies for that. A long time ago, it feels like, you brought up, the loss of Tucker Kraft, and I think we talked about making up for it with other players, and Jaden Reed is a huge part of that. Watson stepping up is a huge part of that too. I think we have the answers we need to move the ball on him if we take it. I think it'll be a tough day if we do have any bonehead mistakes resurface, any kind of false starts and holds, or just blown assignments. We can't get into 3rd and long. They feast on that kind of stuff. So taking what's there, in sustaining drives, basic football stuff, but you have to be able to back it up. And I think we have guys open a lot, and I think Pack wins, and I think Denver makes a typical flourish, but I think we just hold them off, and I think we get back to scoring close to 30 points again, and it's like 30-17. I think it's two scores.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's going to be 28-14, something like that. I don't know if I truly don't think that their offense scores more than 14, Dilly, 10, 14. And let's be realistic. We have to be scoring more. With this offense, we have to be scoring more. And I think a little bit of trickeration would be worthwhile from the Packers. I think throwing in a fun play, maybe. You've got the playmakers, and let's not force the deep ball. We all know that we're going to go deep a couple times. Maybe I think you hit a very good point. Take what the defense gives you, because this is the defense that you need to take those things, right? Soften them up by taking the soft stuff. That's what every team tries to do against the Green Bay Packers. And I look at both of our defenses being very similar. We don't take the ball away, but we have a good defensive line. We don't take the ball away a ton. They don't take the ball away a ton. I do like your point about them playing man-to-man defense a lot, which we showed that we can play against by beating the Lions twice, beating the Vikings handily. Both the Lions games where they are heavy man-to-man because they blitz a lot, so are the Vikings. So I assume that we're going to see some blitz, but we've shown that we can make that up, right? Like, we can pick those up, and I feel comfortable with this game. I think it's a 28-14. I don't mind 30-17, but I truly don't see them scoring unless we give them a score more than 14.
Yeah, and one of the staples of beating man coverage is, the long crossers. The obvious example is the Watson slant for a touchdown. That was a little extreme because what would be the right side of the Bears defense, basically everybody was on the line of scrimmage, so there wasn't even anybody to help the poor soul out. Non-Sauce Gardner, whoever, that they just signed, Chauncey Gardner, something. And I think because of the Broncos pass rush, and they do get a lot of rush with just the rushing four, a lot of those have to be shorter crossing routes. So, drags, Watson or Reed running across the whole field, and they're catching it at 4 yards, and if they have an extra step, then they can turn it up and extend it. If not, it seems like a lot of running for 4.5 yards. But you're going to have to take those. I think, as the game goes on, you get a better feel for how much time you have against the pass rush. I think the deep balls will be like you said, if they are blitzing or showing something where it's like, even Dobbs, anybody has like one step, it'll be like that quick doot, 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 and then it's almost not quite a 50-50 ball, but it's a extended hand catch, probably down the left sideline. And it might be Dobbs this week. And then it's just a matter of if you connect on those, that'll be the vertical game. I don't think, like against the Bears, the Bo Melton play, like you can kind of see Jordan Love scanning the whole field and checking things out and then just flicking it out there because he's so wide open. I don't think we'll see much of that.
Let me ask you a question, Dilly, and this goes into, I'm going to skip a week here, but I'm going to, let's say we do lose this game somehow, which is possible, right? We lose this game. Obviously, it makes the Bears game that much bigger. I don't think the Packers need that. We don't need that game any bigger than it already is for the division purposes. But is it panic time if we lose to the Broncos? I mean, we have a fairly easy finish outside of the Broncos, and I know the Bears is not an easy game, but the Ravens are in trouble. They're in fucking disarray. By the time we play them, they're going to be out of playoff contention. And then you've got the Vikings, who are basically out of playoff contention. And who knows? I think the Vikings and the Bears both win this game this week. I think the Lions are going to be in another shootout. So if you have Jahmyr Gibbs, play him. If you have Puka Nacua, play him. If you have Devontae Adams, sit him. He's done with all of his touchdowns. So take it from me first. Sit Devontae. He's not catching any more touchdowns. It's Puka Nacua time.
I wouldn't hit the panic button at all if the Packers don't get it done this week. And without trying to rehash the whole schedule breakdown, you have to look at the could be a signal there. Getting a little yawny. If you look at the NFC playoff picture, that you're looking at the 8th seed as a team that's trying to make a move, and you have teams like the Buccaneers who just lost, and you got the Lions who are playing the Rams, and then the Lions also have the Bears to close out the season. So the Lions, if they don't win this week, they're another game back. And, the Buccaneers and Cowboys have almost, or frankly, the Panthers, whoever doesn't win the division between the Buccaneers and the Panthers, they've almost played themselves out of the playoffs. So you're really talking about the Lions as a team that would, because my concern is making the playoffs. Of course, you want home games. That's great. But even if we fell down to the 7th seed, I'm not too worried about it because the 2 seed would then be the Bears or the Eagles. So
yeah,
we might play
I actually
them.
don't want to see. I don't mind playing the Bears, but I don't want to see the Bears a third time. That doesn't help the Packers, especially when we win both regular season games, right?
Well,
Like
it's kind of like if we're the 2 seed, we're probably playing the Bears or the Lions, and if we're the 7th seed, we're probably playing the Bears. So, it's not, and unless we look so bad that you're worried about a total collapse and losing 4 or losing 3. 3 would be 10-6-1, and we might still be in it because, like I said, the Lions and Bears play each other, so someone's got to lose. And
I like that philosophy. I'm glad I asked because I wasn't looking at it that way. I say if we lose this game, it is kind of panic time, especially you don't want to lose 2 in a row, but then you come back and win. So if we go 2-2, which is very likely, if we lose 2, we're going to win the last 2. So that if that's the case, then we're going to be 11-5, 11-5-1, right?
yeah, and that's playoffs,
That's
and
year.
that's people like to say you want to win your division first. I don't believe that at all. You just make the playoffs as number 1, and we're not a lock. We're not a lock for the playoffs. I'm stammering. I believe we have the toughest or one of the toughest schedules left. What I forgot to say is I think the Bears are not a lock this week. The Browns are.
Browns.
If there's one guy that can get the slippery Caleb Williams down, it's obviously the best football player in all of football today, perhaps all of sports, Myles Garrett. He's a stud. It's going to be minus 20 below wind chill or whatever. The Browns defense is the one thing they have. So I think the Bears are going to have a real tough go in that game. Obviously they're favored. They're at home. They should probably win, but everybody should probably beat the Browns. But rarely does it look easy against the Browns. And it doesn't. Even in the games they lose by 3 scores, it's like it happens in the 4th quarter. So by the time we play the Bears, we might not be thinking they're such tough, part of the schedule. But we'll see.
Fair enough. I think there's reason for optimism going into Denver. I'm going to still call it Mile High. Not even sure what it's called, to be honest. Is it still Mile High? Who cares?
Hey, if Vegas has us favored, they're not in the business of losing money. I do believe there's probably a bit of, I've always thought that with the Packers, there's a little Packer fan bias where they know a percentage of Packer fans will only bet on the Packers anyway, and they're a nationally recognized team. They had a big win on national TV last week, so it's probably inflated a little bit. It's probably more of a pick'em type of game, or it's only 2.5, so it's not a huge thing. But you'd think if you just were looking at records and if you totally believed in Denver, it'd be Denver -2.5 or -3. So there's reason to believe. I'll just make the easy play here. I will be going on the Kalshi app most likely, and I'll be putting in some. I forget what they call it. It's not betting. It's prediction market. I'll be predicting Packers win by more than 2.5.
Appreciate your time tonight, fella. Another good episode.
Just got to get this over in the hands of the producers, and they'll have it up for us in no time. People are going to
Chop
get
it up.
flooded with content.
Let her rip. Good luck, Pack.
See you tomorrow night. 3 more hours.